young prospects in the sport right now. Coming off insane momentum from his teammate, and in my opinion, despite coming off his first ever career loss, is one of the most solidified prospects in the sport right now. A very young talent, a very prestigious talent from the fighting nation of South Africa. Today, I am joined by MSP himself, who will be facing Payton Talbott in his next bout. A battle of the prospects per se. Cameron, Saaiman, how are we doing today, Cameron? How has everything been, brother? Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm a very avid follower of the page and obviously of the channel as well. So it's great to be here, and thank you for the amazing intro as well. I think I need to start practicing that as well for our podcast, because you do that very, very well. You do that very, very, that's impressive, So it's been very good. The momentum of what Dricus achieved is amazing. We just spoke a little bit about that off camera, but it's been amazing for South African MMA, for the team. Everyone is in great spirits, and that momentum is just going to carry over into my performance coming up.
No, yeah, definitely, and I appreciate the kind words. It is currently 8 a.m. in the morning. I just woke up like an hour or so ago, so still the morning bugs. But more importantly, like you said, the momentum right now, and my God, we were talking off air just now, like the effect that the Dricus has had on South Africa over the past 2 weeks or so has been unbelievable. So much so that I think that ripple effect has done unbelievable things to the nation, and just amplified the sport so much for the past month or so. Talk to me about how everything's been in the past month or so since Dricus has won the belt, and just the insanity that's been spreading across South Africa, the pride of the nation per se.
Yeah, it has been insane. To extent, like Dricus manages it very, very well, but I also feel sorry for the man. Like everyone wants his attention. So he did a belt tour in Cape Town, and he did a belt tour here in Pretoria, and I was here in attendance for the Pretoria one. It's close to the gym, and obviously we are very busy with camp, so we were here for the Pretoria one, which was chaotic. And then they even told us, like, no, the Cape Town one was like 4 times that size. So I can just imagine it must be chaotic for him. But just like the champ he is, he's gonna take that in stride. He's gonna do that well as well. And it's awesome to see the love and support of the South African fans. I think we pride ourselves in having good sporting teams, having good individual athletes, and now we have MMA fighters also putting South Africa on the map, which is amazing. And it's awesome to see the general fan becoming more educated into MMA. And I think that is also something that we get to see, especially now that people are really locked into the sport. And that just makes me happy. It's awesome for South African and African MMA.
No, yeah, definitely. And like you said, like the general fan being educated, we saw his following double overnight. And I talked to you off air about the fan base. In terms of raw fan bases, I think South Africa truly is number one in terms of just fan base. Like you said, a proud sporting nation, one of those nations that gets behind its athletes like wholeheartedly. Talk to me a little bit about, like you said, like that the belt tour was remarkable to see. I can only imagine for you guys seeing it in person, the chaos that was unfolding in Pretoria and also in Cape Town. But talk to me a little bit about your thoughts on Dricus's performance. That was a performance that I thought was remarkable, but I know a lot of people had differing opinions. What was your personal thoughts on the performance and seeing him go out there and defy the odds?
Yeah, that is also a great question, because I haven't really shared my thoughts. And we have a episode coming out with Dricus's brother that like became a meme overnight, But we when it went to decision, I was like, Dricus just became world champion. It was a no-brainer for me. I really thought that he was dominating the fights everywhere, and that was also and it was also interesting seeing the comments afterwards. Like people talking about the jab quite a lot, which was a massive talking point. I think Sean Strickland's fans had, landing that jab, and my argument was, let me jab you in the face and let me kick you in the body, and let's see which one you think is more significant, and there's stuff like that. And then you get to turn to guys that really know the sport in depth. They've done championship fights, like Demetrius Johnson. You know, he was on stream. He commented, he had him winning the fight, that no robbery at all. So you got these differing opinions, and at the end of the day, I thought he fought a picture perfect fight, something that Strickland really got awarded for in his title win against Adesanya, was his non-stop pressure going forward, his ability to land, his ability to keep the pressure, keep the cage control. And that's something that Dricus did against someone that did that very well against Adesanya. So I think he deserves more props for what he did. He landed numerous takedowns, landed shots, had some control time. I think he showed the judges a lot more in that fight than Strickland ever did in that 25 minutes. And you know, my first thought when he won the belt, when we started celebrating and we got to see like the watch parties here in South Africa celebrate as well, my first thought was, if he fights Sean Strickland again, he finishes him in 3 rounds. And that is just, again, testament of our coaching staff, our medical team, our guys that are continuously focusing on getting better. And the first discussion that Monday, when coach and everyone got back, was, when we fight him again, we finish him. So I think there was quite good consensus about what if they had to fight again, what would happen.
No, yeah, definitely, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. You know, when I to keep it brief, you know, I said Dricus won the mixed martial arts fight, Strickland won the boxing fight,
Yeah.
was the best way to put it. And I know
Yeah.
that the reception across social media has been very polarizing, because you have a lot of Strickland fans coming out, kind of antagonizing the Du Plessis supporters. And I want to get your thoughts on the recent buildup of the trash talk, because I know that was a vocal point going into the fight. And me and you both know Dricus relatively well. You more than me, obviously, but we both know that he's a very cordial person and he won't antagonize unless antagonized. And I know that the talk about Fight Week was a lot about him saying what he said and, you know, kind of being unfairly cast as a bad person, because I really feel like that's not the case for Dricus. I want to get your thoughts on that whole trash talk build-up, and then them being seemingly cordial after, then Strickland coming out and saying he got lucky with the head. But I know it was a weird back and forth between Strickland and him, more so on the Strickland side. I want to get your thoughts on just this overall theme of trash talk in the fight game right now.
At the end of the day, trash talking is a lot like sparring in the gym. If you want to take it to that next level, you need to be prepared to match that. The moment you try and pull or just raise the stakes in that trash talk, you need to be able to take that from a guy that is, like you said, you know, Dricus is usually very level-headed. He goes into his build-ups. He goes in not having any personal vendetta against anyone, you know. But if you are going to make claims, if you are going to shout on the mic and deserve it, like Sean Strickland can say whatever he wants, you know, like he can have an opinion, he can do whatever he wants. And I think that's why his following is that massive, is because people find that appealing and, you know, people support that. That's great. But at the end of the day, if you are going to go shout stuff over the mic and you are then taking it personally when someone does that back, it just shows like maturity in the build-up. And it was fun for me to watch, because I got to see how locked in Dricus was. I got to see how he was very attentive and very tactical with his approach to what he's going to say, when he's going to say it. And you got to see that in his fight. Everything in the build-up, how he approached his mental game, how he approached his camp. We talked about that on our podcast as well. Like, he had like a very mature demeanor in this camp. You got to see that on mic. He got to say what he wanted to say. It got out there. Maybe it got pulled out of proportion, but at the end of the day, they're also just selling a fight. And I think it sold pretty well. I think they did very well. And you got to see in his performance that he really was there for one job, and that was to win a world title.
No, yeah, definitely. And I think one of the things I want to highlight as well is the decorum that Dricus du Plessis has. I feel like he has that world championship pedigree. When you see him walk around, he presents himself like a champion. He behaves like a champion. And I think that in part, that's why we saw his social media nearly double overnight, with, you know, the South
Yeah.
African fans really recognizing, hey, this our guy just did something unbelievable. Let's go support him. I want to ask you, Cameron, because I know we've been talking about Dricus a lot, and you know, obviously, the focus right now is on South Africa as a whole and yourself. I want to ask you, just in terms of motivation, because that weekend you had Mark Hume, who doesn't get talked about enough. Be talking about him very soon, I believe,
Yeah.
in the UFC. You know, he just fought on Looking for a Fight, if I remember correctly. We'll see the results there very soon. But you know that, and then also Dricus going out there and doing what he did. I want to ask you, in terms of motivation, you spoke about the impact that had on the South Africa off air, but how does that motivate you as well, and how have you seen that kind of motivate and amplify mixed martial arts in South Africa, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, it is amazing. You know, I do honestly believe, like, the thing he says in Afrikaans, that hulle weet nie wat ons weet nie, they don't know what we know. That's literally like, it wasn't a surprise to me when he won the world title. We knew he was going to do that, you know. So coming from the team that we come from the coaching staff that we have, you know, our head coach Mornay Visser, he doesn't stand back from any fight, and he'll literally take any fights, and he'll, even with guys that are not in the UFC yet, he'll put his best talent against anyone in the world. And I must say, honestly, we like our chances. So it wasn't something new. When the moment he won that title, it is amazing for the country and for the team. It's a massive motivating factor, because everyone knows how hard he has worked for that. So you can just try and emulate that work ethic. You can try and do that every single day, which I think is a great type of checkpoint to try and reach every day. And also, I do believe that everyone had everyone put their best foot forward in helping him prepare. And I do think, knowing that he got to go onto the international stage and achieve that, I think that brings a lot of confidence to every teammate in the gym, and especially myself as well. You know, I am going to become a UFC champion, and if it takes years, that's fine. But we are working towards something specific. We have something in mind, and once we have that, we are going to sit as a team. We're going to decide, okay, how are we going to do this? And we got to do that with Dricus. We're going to get to do that with me. We're going to get to do that with Mark Hume and all the other talent that we have at CIT. And yeah, this is just the start. This is really just the start of what CIT can do for African MMA.
No, yeah, definitely. I think in terms of pushing the charge in South Africa, of course, you got Team CIT in Pretoria, and then you've got Mad Dog MMA with Don Madge and everyone. I feel like just having those two hubs for South African MMA are gonna benefit the nation so much moving forward. And you mentioned something which you hit the nail on the head. You know, without the coaching staff, I feel like part of this kind of gets unrecognized. And you've done a very good job, I think, as a fighter of Team CIT, and also just as a fighter in the fight game, of highlighting that the coaches deserve a lot of credit too. You know, Coach Morn Visser does not get talked about enough in terms of mixed martial arts as a greater whole, and also a lot of the other coaches at Team CIT. I want to ask you, just in terms of crediting him and giving him his flowers, what has it meant for you to see him kind of get a little bit more recognition on the international side, and just seeing the overall reception that his game plan has gotten? Because to go in there and do something like that to Sean Strickland, it takes a masterful game plan, and I feel like he presented a very, you know, dominant and very approachable game plan, to say the least.
Yeah, definitely. We got to see that in the Robert Whittaker fight as well. You know, I think I still remember clear as day the moments Dricus got the fight with Robert Whittaker, came onto the mats, started the warm up. Coach came onto the mats and he's like, "This is how we fighting Robert Whittaker," and everyone didn't like the whole idea of how we're gonna fight him. To be honest, everyone was like quite worried, and it was like, okay, we don't like this, but let's get to work, you know. And exactly how Coach described how how are we finishing Robert Whittaker is exactly what Dricus did in that fight. And same thing with Strickland. There was always, it's as if coach has this innate talent to just be like, this is the way. And, rightfully, every single performance, he also criticizes us for making small mistakes. I think that's what makes him a brilliant coach. You can get a first round finish, but he's going to be like, the angle on that foot when you kicked, that was wrong and stuff like that. So he is he strives for perfection. And I think that's something that's the whole team is really focused on. But everyone trusts his judgment. Like if he says that this is the way we're fighting, then if you can go out and implement that, you will walk away with a win. And I do believe, he doesn't get enough credit. But then again, when I go 3-0 for the year, and when Dricus has 1 or 2 title defenses this year, then hopefully hopefully he gets the credit he deserves. So I think it's on us as well to really highlight his amazing work.
No, yeah, definitely. And like you said, I think whenever the talent, as the talent continues to perform like it's performing, yourself, Dricus, Mark, everyone at Team CIT, they continue to perform how we know they perform, then it'll be undeniable. But I feel like even right now, just seeing the love he's getting, it's been very wholesome to see. And Cam, I want to deviate subjects for a bit. I know we've been talking a lot about Dricus and his title fight. But I want to talk about you because I feel like you as a prospect have been unduly written off a little bit. And I think that's always, like, with the fight fans now, it's a little bit ridiculous in terms of how they kind of treat someone after a loss. But I feel like for you, it was kind of quite the opposite a little bit. Of course, we had some people, talking about, oh, he got exposed or this and that. I want to ask you about your recent performance because I feel like a lot of people are going into it making assumptions, but not really knowing the full scope of it, knowing that Christian Rodriguez missed weight. You went in there against a guy 5 pounds heavier and still had a very close fight. I want to ask you just about your mindset after enduring your first loss in combat sports and maybe how that's shifted your perspective on the sport a little bit, like going into this Payton Talbott fight.
Yeah. Losing a fight is obvious. It sucks. Like I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. It sucks. Even I think the most criticism I got after the fight was, why did you take the fight in the first place? I think that was most of my DMs was like, you shouldn't have taken the fight. And when just to address that, when you have been working 8 to 12 weeks into a fight camp, you've been traveling, so you don't travel just a quick 10-hour flight. It's like 30 hours total of traveling from South Africa to Vegas. Then you obviously do the cuts, which is a massive part of the camp, and then you have the decision of, do you take this fight or not? And in a heartbeat, we didn't even think about it twice. We were like, no, we'll definitely take this fight. And like I said, I've said it before as well, if I had to do it again, I'll do it exactly the same. I am here to put on great performances. I'm here to show what we have been working on tirelessly in the gym, and I'm here to improve on every performance. Now, a loss that gives you some time to reflect on everything, on how you approach fight camps, what you do inside those fight camps, how you monitor your body. I think that's a massive takeaway, is like, we were full cowboy. We thought we could achieve everything within a year, and taking a step back, really listening to my body and being like, okay, listen, let's take a more mature approach in how we are going to go through the next camp. And that you'll see come fight nights. I think we are now in the depth of camp. I'm having an amazing time. I am fully focused on the opponent at hand. And, Payton is a very good striker. He's a very good fighter. He made a great name for himself on the Contender Series, had a very good debut. And we have, like I said, we don't shy away from fights. So when that was the name given to us, we had no hesitation. We said yes. And the whole focus for the next few weeks is going to be get as good as you can, because we're going to beat Payton Talbott come 23 March.
No, yeah, definitely. And, something that really stood out to me was, a lot of people were like, oh, maybe they rushed him a little too quick, but you step right back into the fire against Payton Talbot. Like, if, for those who know Payton Talbot, he's one of those guys that, in terms of prospect, this is a true prospect versus prospect fight. And I think that's in part why it got the reception it did. I don't know if you saw, I made a post about this fight announcing it. And usually when I post prospect fights, they kind of go under the radar. But this might have been one of the biggest announcements on FightWave ever. Because, fans are recognizing this is one of those elite high level fights that the winner coming out of it is worth keeping an eye on moving forward. Talk to me a lot about that a little bit. Like you said, no easy matchups in any sense of the imagination. Stepping right back into the fire, the MSP way. Talk to me a little bit about taking this fight and also, testing yourself. Because I know for you, like you said, you don't want to take the easy path to the belt. You don't want to take the road more traveled. You want to take the road less traveled, the road more fulfilling, and we see that with every fight you accept and every fight you perform in.
Yeah, definitely. I do think it's one of those. It was quite interesting for me, seeing that they wanted to make that fight happen. I was actually quite surprised because I really thought that we'll see each other later in our careers. But great, when Uncle Shelby said, "Listen, let's make this fight happen," we didn't hesitate once. And he is a very talented prospect, and a massive win over him will just again prove what we already know, and that is that we had the unfortunate setback of losing against Rodriguez, but when I make championship weights, when I'm still undefeated at bantamweight. I'm just saying that now, honestly. So no bantamweight is going to beat me now. So we're going to go in there. We're going to show that we deserve to fight the top contenders at bantamweight, and a win over someone that has a lot of hype coming off that debut. That's picture perfect in my eyes, and we'll go out there and show the fans what we already know.
No, yeah, definitely. And I guess a specific question I wanted to know personally was because if I remember correctly, the C-Rod fight was the first one you had. I know you and Dricus have fought on several cards together, but this was the first card that you kind of went on your own and fought. Dricus stayed back in South Africa, and you went out there with the team from CIT and performed. I want to ask you just some of the maybe some of the differences you noticed, because I know you and Dricus generally together on these fight weeks. Was there any standout differences from going out on your own, and kind of any real factors that kind of came into play? Going into this fight week, the first time I think in the UFC, you and Dricus have not fought on the same card.
Yeah, I think less banter, and I was bullied way less, but I think that those are the only differences, to be honest. It's just, no, it's always fun when we share a card. It's always fun when we get to travel together. So in terms of that, it is quite different. But then again, when I fought on the Contender Series, I was also just here. We traveled. It was myself, our assistant coach Henny, which plays a massive role in our camp, and our head coach Mornay Visser. So nothing really changes. I do think that the job at hand stays the same. I think we are so focused on our own fights, and we help each other in the build up. Do the peak rounds, do the key strength and conditioning together. All that we do together. But at the end of the day, you are solely focused on the job at hand, and that is to be in the best physical shape. And I think that's also something that we really didn't skimp on the last time. I think we really focused on having everything in place, and at the end of the day, it wasn't our night, and we'll rectify that come 23 March.
No, yeah, definitely. And like you said, very steadfast and driven on this goal in front of you, which is Payton Talbott, Cameron. And, I want to thank you so much for your time. Anytime I get to speak with you, it's a privilege and honor for me. And, as always, I appreciate the kind words and the love that you and the team at Team CIT have given me. It really means a lot to me. And I want to ask you something very specific. I know you asked your audience this, and also on the backs of that, I think it would be a disservice if I did not ask this question, which is one,
Yeah.
what was it like meeting the MMA guru, and two, what does MSP mean for you? Because I know you posed that question to your audience, but I guess I want to pose the same question to yourself. What does MSP stand for in the eyes of Cameron Saaiman, and what was it like meeting the MMA guru?
Yeah, meeting the MMA guru, he's such a nice guy. You know, I think he on camera he's sometimes very polarizing. He like angers a lot of people. When he came to South Africa, we really tried to almost welcome him with open arms because he does a lot for the MMA space. And whether sometimes his comments are like very, very polarizing and he angers a lot of people, I enjoy his content. I enjoy everything that he does and posts and stuff like that. Sometimes there will be some instances where we differ on predictions or whatever he thinks of the UFC, and that's fine. He at his core is a very nice human being, and he is a very good asset to the sport because I do think he brings a type of other type of audience to MMA. And when he came to South Africa, we got to spend some time together. We got to train together. We also got to do a podcast together, which was awesome. And yeah, he definitely he told me that he'll be coming back to South Africa. He has some friends living here, and I told him I would love to go to England and go visit there as well. So yeah, hopefully he has a space in that weird little cave of him back home. But we'll try and sort out the logistics once that is sorted out. And then of it, what was the second question? Sorry, I get
This,
hits in the head quite a lot.
no, it's all good. I doubt you get hit in the head quite a lot because the head movement in the fights is remarkable. But I gotta say, what does MSP mean to you? Because I know you posed that question for your audience of the MSP show, but I want to ask it specifically to you. What does MSP stand for in the
Yeah.
eyes of the host himself, Cameron Saaiman?
that's that's a great question. You know, Most Savage Player is the one we use quite a lot, and we have a very like we have an Afrikaans meaning for it as well, which I'm definitely not allowed to say on this interview. So if you delve a little bit deeper, or just ask some Afrikaans followers, I'm pretty sure you'll figure that out pretty quickly. But it all started with my mental coach and one Henny, he's been there since the start. He gave me the nickname. You don't get to pick your own nickname, and it got stuck, you know. And so the MSP brand is here to stay, definitely.
No, yeah, definitely. And Cameron, thank you so much for your time. I guess just on one final note, what's your message to the South African fans at home, the newly found South African fans who maybe just got put onto the sport because of you and Dricus? And what can we expect to see from you come this year? Because I know you mentioned, you said in the interview briefly 3-0 year. That's kind of what you're eyeing. But what can we expect to see from you in the year? Maybe professionally, maybe personally, and also what's your message to the new South African fans and the South African fans that have been knowing. And I know there's the saying in South African or in Afrikaans, they don't know what we know. And I don't want to butcher the
Yeah.
pronunciation, but any final messages to the fans at home and what can we come to expect of you this year?
Yeah, what you first can expect is a finish come 23 March. And that will be the first win that we will be ticking off for the year. And if my body allows it, we will do 2 and 3 for 2024. So 3 wins this year, that is definitely a goal that we set out. I'm also planning on traveling for a little bit of sparring and for training. So maybe double it as a little bit of holiday. That's something that I really am looking to do this year as well. And yeah, thank you to all the South African fans. Thank you to all the fans. Like you have an amazing page, your FightWave. And I pay close attention to the posts and the comments. These guys are super educated. They love fighting, and I love guys that love fighting. So it's really awesome to see educated fans. Even like if you leave your opinion, if you don't, if you talk trash on the page, whatever the case may be. At the end of the day, it's great for the sport of MMA, and that makes me really happy. And you'll see a very happy MSP entering the cage 23 March.
Absolutely. I cannot wait. The first of the year. And Cameron, as a fan of yourself and as a fan of what you do, the message you present in MMA, I want to thank you for all that you do for the sport. Thank you on behalf of the five fans, for you and Dricus, and also extend my congratulations to you and the team. I know that come March 23rd, we'll be seeing a very different version, but an improved version of MSP Cameron Saaiman 2.0. Thank you so much for joining us. To the fans at home watching, do be sure to check out Cameron Saaiman on social media. If you're not subscribed to the MSP show on YouTube, I'll be linking that in the description down below. It's great content. I know there's a Neil du Plessis, the brother of Dricus du Plessis. They were talking about the Adesanya versus du Plessis we don't want to talk about, which is Neil du Plessis versus David Adesanya. But that's a whole nother episode for a whole nother day. It's been me, Dan, from FightWave. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed. Do be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and have a great day, guys.